Fire Radio.
Hey guys, Jeremy, National Fire Radio. Welcome back to the Undisclosed Agents Podcast. I'm here. This is fun, man. Jesse Horton, Micah Hortons. How are you guys? Thanks for joining me on my show today. This is kind of a little bit of a mind bend for me right now. We're on your platform, but it's my show today. Kind of weird.
Yeah, it wasn't the smoothest first hour, we'll say that.
The joys of technology, man. Like you guys, I want to get into the story of who you guys are and the platform that you guys have. Hortons and Hunt training group, and then from that came the Undisclosed Agents Podcast, doing everything and promoting the job. I'm going to get into all that, but first and foremost, man, the difficulties in podcasting. There are so many podcasts in the American Fire Service today. They pop up literally even this morning. Somebody sent me a link to a new one and said, "Did you see this one yet?" And I'm like, "Nope." Episode 1, I listened to it, and we'll leave it at that. I listened to the first few minutes, but my point is when you decide to go down that road, was it what you thought it would be? Like, how difficult is it to have your own podcast?
When we dove into it, it was like we wanted to do it, but we wanted to do it right. I mean, everybody hates when you turn a podcast on and it sounds like garbage, or
right.
Yeah, it's hissy or clicky or whatever. Sounds like they're recording in a tin can. So we went kind of all out and bought like good gear and good microphones. And then we recruited our buddy who's a producer to kind of do the editing for us so it would sound great, and it's been beneficial as far as the technology side goes. There's glitches all the time, like we had everybody in the first, 13 episodes was sitting in here with us, recording, sitting next to us, which was way easier. But now that we're reaching out, like guys like you and others that have been on, we've been on theirs or they've been on ours. It's been, sometimes there's some glitches you got to get through, and sometimes there's some recording issues. And then you get guys who don't have microphones or don't have headsets, and it gets a little, sketchy, but it hasn't been bad. It hasn't been that technically hard. Every now and then, like this morning, you hit a frustrating bump, but not a lot.
So I figured out what it was this morning, by the way. I had to go back to long ago, how we fixed it. Mickey had a problem when he launched his Top Floor Tactics podcast on our channel. And the equipment we had. Do you have a Rode board? Is it a Rode?
It's a Rode Procaster 2.
That's why you have to go into the Rode settings and change a setting within the board to allow for recording through Riverside.
Oh, that's
what it is. I just thought of it like when we literally 2 minutes ago. I'm like, wait a minute, we went through this. That was it. So there's an internal setting that I had to switch because I got a Rode podcast, like my Rode board I've had for like 6 years now,
right.
And I had to go in and upgrade the software on it, and then I had to fine tune it to allow for that. So anyway, we figured it out. So next go around, we'll get that squared away. But the reason why I bring that up is a lot of people look at opportunities of what's out there today, and podcasts are certainly an innovative way. Which is mainstream today, but years ago it was innovative, right? Now it's mainstream, but so many people find the value in podcasts because it's taking the friction out of the system and delivering content or conversation or interest to people on a platform that they can listen to while they're cooking, in the car, jogging, working out, whatever it is. You take the friction out of the system and we can get a message across that way. And so, but the challenge of podcasting really comes down to the tech side of it, and then the delivery, and most importantly, I think consistency.
Consistency for sure for us has been something we've had to work on. We're all on different shifts, and
sure,
we're all busy with everything we got going on in life. So the consistency has been tough for sure, but we're doing it. So
the value you get out of it, what does it do for you guys, Micah? Like for you, man, you hop on a hot episode, you have a great conversation with a guy. And after the fact, like, what does that do for you? I mean, do you go like all in on it? You can't get enough of it?
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, when we started out, selfishly, I was super excited because we get to have these great conversations with these leaders of industry in our field. And it's selfishly, I'm just sitting there getting a masterclass from these guys the whole time, and then hopefully adding a little bit to the conversation as we go. But yeah, after we get done with a good episode, it's like we listen to the thing right after we record it to make sure that it sounds good. But then I'm sitting there taking notes the whole time, like, oh man, I got to work on that, or I got to go look this up or do X, Y, Z,
That is the selfish side of it, which is what I need, right? Like I do, the podcast for National Fire Radio is a very small piece of what we do overall. And it's my selfish endeavor for me that I need this. Like I need to sit down with guys today and talk about it and get me fired back up about it and hit on topics that I think are important that we can share a message. And, consistency matters in that, because when you build community and people come to understand your personality, understand your points of view, and they value the guests you bring on, you're building community. Community can only be built on consistency. And that's one of the biggest things. And everybody wants to start a podcast. And I've seen so many come and go. And it's very much a long game, not an upfront thing.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. When we started out, we lined up about 5 guests and got them all done. Just did them like day after day after day. And we were having so much fun with it. And then it got to a point where we're like, oh shit, we need more
reality.
Guests. We need to start booking people out. And then, a couple of times almost missed our deadlines because of scheduling problems and stuff like that. But so far, so good.
How often are you guys releasing episodes?
We're trying to be like every 2 weeks. Sometimes it'll go to 3 weeks, depending on, the producer's schedule. We try not to rush him along, but no longer than 3 weeks apart. But we try and get a few in the can. So as soon as he gets one done, I can send him another one, keep this guy working,
So where did it come from, right? So you guys, you have your training cadre, right? Hortons and Hunt training group, right? And it's a bunch of you guys that are out there training, teaching. We're going to go down that road in a few minutes. But like, whose idea was it to be like, hey, you know what we should do to piggyback on top of that? Let's start a podcast.
That was Jesse's idea for sure.
We had always been huge podcast fans, right? I think everybody who's a student of the game is. And it was like one of the best things to do is we listen to these podcasts and get ideas and thoughts and talking about them all the time. And I thought, we can do this. Like, this would be fun, right? We got a bunch of friends we can interview and talk to. And I got a guest room we can turn into a podcast studio, quote unquote, and we can do this thing. And I kind of dove. I don't dabble. Right. I don't dabble in anything in my life. I'm either all in or all out. There's no gray area. So
most guys in the fire service.
I came to the guys and I was like, hey man, I think we can do this and it'd be super fun. And my brother's always down to have my back. And he said, yeah, I've always wanted to do this too. We seem to share a lot of the same goals and aspirations. So we dove into it, but yeah, it's been pedal to the metal ever since.
I'll be honest. When Jesse says he came to us and said he wanted to do this, he used all of the money that we had just put into the business and bought podcast stuff and then said, come over.
Hey guys, I got a great idea. What do you think of this? Too late. We're already doing it.
Yeah. What do you think? I spent all our money.
Come on over. Oh, and there's no more money in the budget. So you buy the beer. All right.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I get it. You guys as brothers, you get along?
Oh yeah. Best friends,
man. We are brothers though. So
always been that way.
Yep. Yeah. We're only 2 years apart. So we've been super close our whole life. Growing up, we were both sports, ball sports and motorsports, and both just lived near each other all the time, lived with each other until Micah decided to get married.
Way to go and ruin that, Micah. Yeah, right.
We used to have a pool table where his couch is now. I always tell that story. I remember when I used to live here, there's a pool table right here.
That's right.
So that's right. We've been super close our whole life. Best friends.
That's cool, man. In an upbringing like that, like I think of my 2 younger daughters, they're only 14 months apart, and they are the best of friends. But man, every once in a while, look out, right? They got to mark their territory in a way, which is fun to watch. But I think that's important. But do you find like between you guys, and this is what I love, is like competition? Do you guys compete? With one another?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if I would call it competing, but we definitely push each other.
Well, I saw Jesse like shaking his head no. So that's interesting to me.
Well, it's not that we are never like trying to beat each other. Yeah. Like in a fun, playful way, we'll always try and compete against each other. We're brothers. But the most important thing is that we both succeed and we have each other's back to the end of the earth. Like it doesn't matter. I will scud myself in a heartbeat to save my brother, or to help my brother do something.
The way it should be.
Yeah.
No doubt.
We've always been selfless in that aspect, but yeah, we're brothers. Like, dude, I'm going to force this door faster than you. No, you're not.
Yeah. Get the hell out of my way. Yeah, absolutely.
We also train jujitsu together. So I would say that I lose, by the way.
So. Well, I think Jesse's got a few pounds on you. I mean, he looks like a bigger guy, no?
Only a couple.
Yeah, we're pretty close in size. I mean, we met in Indy. You know,
yes.
We're not small guys.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I mean, they say I have not gone to. I think I'm afraid to do jujitsu. Everyone I know that rolls on mats say how great it is, how good it is for the soul, what it does for them mentally, physically. And I love everything about that. It just terrifies the hell out of me the first day you step on that mat.
That's the beauty.
Terrified of it.
I think you should be afraid of how much you're going to like it, because you're going to have to then fit that in your busy schedule already. You know, that's what you should be afraid of. But the soul thing, good for your soul. You know how guys talk about surfing? They're like, oh, it's the source, man. And they like talk on this existentialism about surfing. That's what jiu-jitsu is for me. And I've talked about it on a bunch of podcasts. Like, you're only free, in my mind, I only find freedom 3 ways. I find freedom through laughter. When you're laughing at something, you're free. It's fleeting. It's short, but you're free for that moment. I find freedom in jiu-jitsu while I roll, and I find freedom while I'm in a firefight, because you're only concentrated on those things. Your mind is clear of all the other drama or problems or sadness that you may have during those 3 times for me. So not to get too deep.
That. I love that. I'm actually quiet. It's funny when I do podcasts and I get quiet, it's because I'm really enjoying what you're saying, and I'm playing it over in my head. And you're absolutely right. Like, those are things that you have to be 100% focused on, which then cuts out the noise of everything else in your world.
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been the greatest thing I've ever done in my life for myself. So,
Mike, does that work for you too? Then do you believe in that?
I do.
What Jesse was just talking about?
Yeah, I do. I couldn't agree with what he said more. It's when you get onto the mats and you're trying to not get strangled or one of your limbs ripped off. If you find yourself not paying attention to exactly what's going on right now in front of you, your mind starts to wander. That's when you get strangled. So
the details matter, right? That's I mean, ultimately, right, in jiu-jitsu, and correct me if I'm wrong, but listening to Rogan a bunch and some other podcasts where guys, frequent the mats, like, the details matter. It's just how you hold your body, position yourself, all these different things, but you have to be 100% in tune with what you're doing, or you're not going to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. When you start doing jiu-jitsu, one of the things that coaches tell you to do, and that I still do all the time, is close your eyes, because it's not a visual thing. It's all about feel, right? It's about body positioning and weight distribution and angles and posture and things like that. So you don't really need to see any of it. I know what a body looks like. I know it's got 2 arms, 2 legs, a torso, and a head. So I don't need to see that to know where those things are.
How much of that parlays into the fire service then? Because, man, am I drawing so many parallels right now. Is that how long were you firefighters? Were you guys firefighters before jiu-jitsu? Like, how did that work out?
I was in the fire service before I started jiu-jitsu.
I was not.
You were.
I was a jiu-jitsu practitioner before I was a firefighter.
So. Okay. So that's interesting to me, right? Because I have to think that there is tremendous parallels between the two.
High stakes problem solving.
It is problem solving at its highest level. You have to make decisions immediately, and those decisions can either improve your position or be dire for you.
That's what I like about it when I get in a pinch or I get in a situation where I feel the pressure of decision or the pressure of action. It's helped me process that emotion and slow my mental process down, where my physical process can then speed up. And that's transition from the mat to the fire ground. It's the same thing. If you can slow your mental process down through training and through competency, your physical process can speed up and be more accurately employed.
One of those things that we say in the fire service, at least in academies and things like that, we've taught a lot of academies throughout our careers, is we always tell people, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Right?
Sure.
You're going to be in tight spaces. It's going to be hot. It's going to be dark. It's going to be scary, whatever. And you have to keep clarity of mind during these intense situations. And jiu-jitsu for me has taught me more about keeping my mind on task and focused while being very uncomfortable.
I mean, we say it all the time, right? You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, but it's almost like it's lost its luster. Like, the meaning behind that, it sounds cliche. It's
big
shtick
fire, big
almost,
water.
right?
Yeah, we got a bunch of sayings.
Why why aren't we focusing more? I mean, there's so many things, mindset and this and that. And it's like we put titles to things and so on, but like the actual meat of it, the bones, like all of it, right? Like we need to do a better job at setting our people up mentally for the job. And I'm not talking about mental health. I'm talking about mentally envisioning the work in front of them, being able to close their eyes, take that breath, and focus on the task at hand and cut out all the other noise. Like that is such a big part of firefighting that we don't talk about enough on an entry level. And only with time and experience do I think we start to hone that, what Mickey Farrell talks about, like Zen efficiency, right? Like that aspect of the job. You guys are out there teaching with your training cadre, with your group. You guys do all these different things. Is that part of your program?
I would say that it's not directly, like we're not talking about that with the students, but we're putting them through the paces. Our goal at every training is to get maximum amount of reps. So we're tiring them out as much as we can during the training to get that stress inoculation as a part of the training, just kind of built into it. But I agree 100% with what you're saying. We don't go to work enough, right? We don't get enough jobs. And a lot of people complain about that. There's not, fires are down or whatever the case may be, but we've got to keep on, not to get back on the training train that everybody talks about, but we've got to keep training and we've got to keep out there pounding it if we're going to get that stress inoculation like you're talking about. Get used to that, being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
Yeah, if you get enough sets and reps in, right, you can achieve that flow state on the fire ground. If your basics are so tight that we call it the commute to work. All the stuff you do in the front yard, that's your commute to work. Pulling a line, throwing a ladder, forcing a door. That's the commute to work, because our job doesn't actually start until you cross the threshold or until you step onto the roof, right? That's when your job starts. Everything else is the commute to work. So make sure that your commute to work is so dialed in that you don't even have to think about it. Your cognitive capital is maxed out by the time you cross the threshold.
I want to challenge that a little bit, and I want your perspective on it. When we talk about sets and reps, I think that's another set of words that get used too much and lack meaning behind them. And I think what I'm concerned about is like, as I mature through the fire service, you start to get a different appreciation for like tasks and what the actual tasks are. And it's like, forcible entry is not the task. It's a job to gain position on the fire or rescue. And so, right. So you understand where I'm going with this, right? So It's like, I don't want to lose sight that if we're just forcing a door on a training ground 30 times in a Saturday and Sunday, that's the, what did you call it? Commute to work, right? Like it's the commute to work's important, but it's when you have to get to work and walk through the front doors of your business. Now it's game time.
Correct.
Right?
And yes. I heard you talking with
Do you understand? Do you understand where I'm coming from with that? Yeah. Like I'm not, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. I heard you talking with Mickey about it the other day, this exact thing, and it was super smart because sets and reps is like a buzzword and we all are guilty of using it. And you're right. Yes. We're losing the meaning behind it. So when we talk about sets and reps, what we're trying to do is get the commute to work, the door forcing that door, those steps, gap set, force, or the pulling the hose and getting water to the end of the line and getting a good stretch. All that stuff's so easy because you do it so many times, because when you cross the threshold, now we have to teach the why. Why did we force that door? What are we going to do next? Why did we stretch the line here? And why did we use the pull that we used to get it there? Why are we going to advance it like this? Because the job starts after the threshold. If we're wasting the term Micah coined, we wrote an article in FTTN called Blackbelt Firefighting, and it was all about this. We use the jujitsu kind of thing, but we talked all about these basics. And if we can get this cognitive capital of ours in reserve, because the commute to work, these things in the front yard are second nature. When we step across that threshold or onto that roof, when the job starts, now we can understand that why and process why we forced that door, why we threw the ladder where we did, why we're going to cut which pattern we're going to cut and where we're going to cut it.
Yeah. If I don't have to sit and think about my hose pull, if I don't have to think about my stretch, if I can just assess my building, get a bad look at my yard, my setback, my separation, and pull a line without thinking about it further than that, it opens my aperture to start looking at eaves, paying attention to smoke conditions, listening to radio traffic, understanding what the scene is actually doing, how it's developing, and listening for victims. Look, it opens my mind. It frees me.
Were you always like that? Like, I mean, like, we hone it as we go, obviously, right? And like, you look at the early years, the impressionable years, you know, that's where we really got to do the legwork on the basics. And, you know, you guys had said, like, before we started recording, it was kind of a conversation of like, what's hot for you? What are topics that you want to dive in on? What makes your skin crawl? What makes you happy? Like all that stuff. And basics, whiz bang, lacking basics, advanced firefighting. Like, these are topics for you guys that stick. It's taking the basics, packaging it so that it is that muscle memory, and then understanding where that fits in to the much bigger picture. We got to teach the mindset and theory behind why we do these things, and not just because we do these things. You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
I didn't go through that. Like, my younger years in the fire service, nobody taught me after the threshold.
No,
it was, you know what I'm saying? And so you go through it. It's like, this is how you force the door. And then a lot of times too, the basics of forcing door typically comes down to brute force. And only through time do you understand that actual mechanics of it matter. Right? Like, if you're the biggest guy, you're like, I'll get through this door, you know, and you're going to exert so much energy and so much work to get that door open that now you're shot to begin with. And so that's where maturity, you start to mature and understand that it's the methodology, it's the way about it, which enables me to do my job better once I get past this obstacle.
Yeah. So our business partner, Bryon Hunt, taught my academy 20 years ago. And,
cool.
And when 20 years ago, when I went through an academy, it was, hey, do it this way. Okay. Why? Because that's the way we do it. Shut up. Do it this way. Right.
That's it.
And it was Bryon back then. He was a young academy cadre member. He was the junior guy on the training ground back then. And it was him that started explaining those things to new guys. Like,
right.
Well, let's break it down. Why do we do it like this? What's the process? So I was lucky enough early in my career to get some of those why answers that I was looking for. And I've tried to carry that throughout my career. Is we don't do it like this just because we've always done it like this. I'm willing to challenge the status quo. I'm willing to look at new techniques and look at everything and break it all down. Right.
Micah, was he a mentor for you?
100%. Still is.
Still. Yeah. Which I love that. How important was that, though, that somebody recognized something in you that he wanted to go all in on you to show you what he had learned and understand that it is more than just sets and reps? Not everybody gets that opportunity.
You know, it might have been just me pestering him so much all the time.
Which I love. Like, that sometimes you got to do that, right?
No, Bryon he was ahead of his time. He was a guy that always was all in with everybody he ran into on the training ground. It did not matter if he liked you or didn't like you or saw something in you or didn't. He was going to tell you all the stuff that he knew.
I love that. Do you find today, Chief, you're doing that yourself? Like, is there an intent with your delivery to make sure that you're giving more than just what needs to be given?
Absolutely. My most hated thing in the fire service is information hoarders. We talked about stuff that gets in your craw a little bit earlier, but information hoarders are the worst thing in the fire service. If you know something that the guys on your crew don't, and you're not sharing it with them, you need a different job. You should not be in the fire service. We are a team. We are here for the public. We are here for each other. And if I'm good at something and you're not, I need to make sure that you know how to be as good as I am at it.
Yeah, well, that comes from a place of confidence and lack of ego. Jesse, you got big, not you, I'm saying guys have ego. They protect what they know because that's what sets them apart, right?
it's weird because I think, is there some like award they give out that I don't know about? You guys have been in the fire service longer than me. If you go out on the fire ground and bust out some awesome door force or like this magical cut on a roof, or you pull a hose really special that you never showed anybody, does somebody come up and give you an award afterwards? Because
no, you got to, it's stroking your own ego, my man.
I agree.
You give it to yourself.
It's so silly.
Yeah.
And God forbid you're not the guy on the tool. And then you didn't show that kid how to do it, or you're not the guy who gets the stretch. And now it's a rat's nest at the door. You know, as the first line goes, so goes the fire. And you didn't give them the knowledge you had or the gold you had in the back of your head because you're an information hoarder. And now this whole fire's gone downhill because you wanted to keep some special knowledge.
And you wanted to look good. It drives me absolutely crazy.
Do you know, though, I'll be honest, like I was that guy once.
Oh, I was that guy once too. I think we all were at some point in our career.
Yeah. It's like, look at me. I'm out there pushing myself to learn more. I'm making myself better. How dare I just give it away to you guys because I did the hard work, right? And like that, through maturity comes clarity. I talk about it all the time. And like the guy I am today, I love sharing nuggets and tips and things. Even now, I mean, shit, I'm still going to conferences, picking things up, going like, that's awesome. You know, or even the mindset, like literally even the mindset we're just talking about is like, the door is like a task to get to the mission. Like it's, you know, I was never taught that until only in the last few years that I really start to understand like the mindset aspect of what this job is about. And so it's all of that. We need to be sharing that. And I couldn't agree with you more, man. Hoarding information does nothing for no one. Plain and simple.
Nope. I unfortunately, coming up in the fire service, I knew some guys. I worked with guys that were amazing firemen. Just amazing firemen, and wouldn't teach you shit. If you asked them how they did what they did, it was like, get the fuck out of here, kid. And it drove me crazy. And to your point that we've all been that person on some level. Early in my career, I wanted to be the fireman that every captain wanted riding behind him. I wanted to be the guy that knew everything because I wanted to get the work. And it took me getting involved in academies a couple of years into my career and to start teaching on the training ground as a regional training officer to realize the benefit and the satisfaction that you get from sharing your information and your knowledge and your experience. It's just, teaching is one of the greatest things that I've ever done in my career. It is the most fulfilling part of the fire service for me, is passing on knowledge.
I wanted to say this. You raised a very good point, and something that's playing around in my head is like, you think about captains and who they want in their engine company, truck company, whatever company, right? And they want a certain type of person. And they want somebody that's proficient and professional. But what they also want is somebody that is so dialed in that they're willing to give everything up for someone else, right? Like you want all-stars in your company, no doubt. But if your all-star is not willing to pass the ball, right?
Yep.
Then he's selfish, right?
Yeah.
And like, and when you're selfish, like the mission doesn't matter because it's all about you and your performance. That's interesting to me.
I want my whole team full of dogs.
Dogs.
Yeah, I want them all. I want everybody in the lineup. I want the captain to come out there, and if you don't have a seat bid, right, and the captain's got to do the staffing for the day, I want him to have a tough choice on who he's putting backwards behind him. You know, I want the captain to go, I don't know. Maybe I should just make these guys wrestle for it.
Man, you're 100% right. And what that does then is it creates an even playing field for all the guys on the field, which means that there is this unconditional belief that whoever gets that pull or gets that seat that day or that position is going to do that job to the utmost ability, just like everybody else would. That's what I talk about when winners win. That's when you know you're winning. When it's difficult to pick a guy to take a seat because they're all so good, you're doing something right.
Absolutely. And I can speak to that from a battalion chief level. When I roll up on scene and I take command of an incident, I don't want to have to look at the sheet at my staffing sheet that morning and go, oh shit, if we get a fire today, I can't put these guys on this job. I can't assign this task to this company, right? I want to pull up on scene and just go, yep, you're doing this, you're doing that. Those guys are doing this. I support the plan. You guys are all kicking ass, right on.
Yeah. That is when you know culture is good. That's when you know the foundation is strong, right? Jesse, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that is the dream, right? What we're talking about is the dream, right? This is the pie in the sky vision of what your department should be and what the fire service should be. But others have to buy into that vision, and the culture has to support that vision. You have to develop a culture within your organization that not only is excited about the job, is excited about all aspects of the job, wants to be there, but creates an environment where training is supported and training is encouraged, and there's never nobody gets down on each other. I think we get so quick to bite each other's heads off or shit on each other in a training scenario where we create these, you've seen the Homer Simpson meme where he ducks into the bush.
Yeah, he just disappears, right?
Yeah, you go, hey, who's going to pull the next line? And it's like a bunch of Homer Simpsons, because they know if they fuck it up, somebody's going to shit on them out on the training ground. And we got to get that out of the American fire service. We have to create.
You imagine having that environment where you're afraid to speak up or be the first guy up or it nauseates me how we treat people in our fire departments today.
It's very real.
And we're the worst ones. Firemen are the worst to other firemen. Like, putting yourself out there. We talked about it a little bit.
100%, man. 100%. And you know who hates you more than anyone? Your own people.
Yeah. Oh, ain't that the truth?
Yeah, that is.
I got some of the best friends in the world, but man, it's like it's just how it is, right? And I think about an environment like I talk a lot about this, where I talk about the say yes, stop saying no, say yes, and saying yes empowers your people. It allows them to try different things, be encouraged and validated to bring a new idea forward, and maybe it's better than what you do now, right? And shitty, poor leaders will always say no because they won't encourage other people to step up, and they won't endorse them, and they won't push them to be better than they are. Leadership is certainly lacking in the fire service. Everybody is seeking it. I mean, they're speeding up the process. They're trying to learn more about it. Meanwhile, leadership really comes through experience and doing, and not so much theory. And we got people that are starving for this stuff.
I agree. And I think you see that now more. I mean, just over the course of the last 8 years, conference wise, when you go, you're starting to see
leadership,
way more leadership development. Are we seeing the highest quality stuff of it here and there? Right. It's getting better. Sometimes it's not as great other times, but I think we're seeing more of it. And you're right. People are hungry for it because they've experienced poor leadership. Everybody has experienced poor leadership at some point in their career, and everybody's experienced good leadership. And now everybody's like, well, if we had good leadership, I think people are starting to make the correlation. Like, oh, if we don't have good leadership, like, we can't embrace this environment. We can't create this culture that we all want to have in our fire departments, because it does start at the top. You can be as positive pyramid as you want, but if you're getting beat down from the top at all times, like, 100%. It'll damper your fire real quick.
It is a very hard, it's a very hard conversation. And in fact, it's happening in most firehouses across the country, where people are looking. But I also think too, we can get in the other realm of this, where it's just easier to point the finger and be like, yeah, well, management won't let us do it. So I guess, this is just going to suck. Job sucks. I hate it here. Meanwhile, you're sacrificing your own morals, ethics, and values, your own work ethic, right? Because somebody else is stunting your growth. And it's like finding that balance of saying, like, no, I'm not going to let you tear me down. I'm going to do what I can, at least to make my stint in the firehouse when I'm here as good as it can be for me, even if the environment doesn't promote it. I think that part's infectious, but the big part about that is it takes work.
Yep.
People don't want to. I mean, listen, I'm talking to two guys that roll around on the jujitsu mat. I don't have to talk to you about work, but it takes work. And I think sometimes we can get away with it because we're using it as an excuse now. We're pointing fingers and blaming someone else for why your company's not that great, or you didn't stretch that well, or you didn't force that door as good as you should have, or the search wasn't as clear as it should have been, like whatever it is. But we're not accepting responsibility for a lot of that today. We're just pointing the finger and blaming it up the chain of command and saying, well, we don't have a positive culture. We don't train as well as we should. We don't do this. We don't do that. But there's plenty of opportunity to better yourself. Are you taking advantage of those opportunities?
Yeah. We talk about outside training all the time, and we've been coast to coast to trainings, conferences, symposiums.
Awesome.
You know, you name it. And it's not supported by our department, by our current department. None of that gets paid for through the city. We don't get time off. We got to take trades or annual leave and pay for it out of our own pocket to go do these things. And does that suck sometimes? Yeah. Yeah, it does. Are we still doing it? Yeah, absolutely. Because you have to take responsibility for your own growth at some point. And if everybody took a little bit more personal responsibility, took stock in themselves a little bit more, it's an investment. You're investing in yourself, right? So, would it be great if all departments across the country said, hell yeah, we'll pay for you to go to this, that, or the other thing. We'll give you time off.
Not the case.
Yeah, we'll cover your shifts. Yeah, that would be awesome, but it's just not the case. So at some point, you're going to have to take the reins. You're going to have to do some work yourself.
But I love that, right? Because then you own it. Like, how dare I, or how dare anyone else dampen my flame? Like, if I have this passion for the fire service and it's a place that I love, and now when I go to the firehouse, I don't love it anymore, I'm letting somebody else not allow me to do what I used to do.
Yeah, you're letting somebody else steal what you worked so hard to get.
Right.
With zero effort.
Right. Like, and you know what? Listen, fire service is like everything. There's peaks and valleys. We have great days and we have shitty days, right? And there's days that you don't want to train. There's days you don't want to wash a truck. There's days you don't want to engage the public. And then there's days that you're like 100 miles an hour. Let's go, let's go, let's go. It's ups and downs, right? There's no such thing as balance. It's just what works at that time. It's all over the place, right? 70, 30, 60, 40, whatever it is. My point though is internally hold yourself accountable. Don't blame others. Go get it. Like, I can't say that enough. I travel, I talk to so many guys, people send me messages and DMs and all this stuff, and they're always discouraged. People are discouraged. And I tell them, don't let somebody else ruin it for you.
Yeah. You
might get it.
You might have to go out and start your own training company and podcast. You never know.
sounds like a couple of guys I might know, you know? And I was going to ask you, Jesse, like, where did this come from? Like, how did you guys find Hortons and Hunt? Like, where were you seeking or searching for something, couldn't find it, and you're like, we're gonna do it ourselves?
You know, it's a long story, so I'm gonna give you the Cliff Notes version. We've talked about this before, but it's a weird story. Micah and Bryon had always talked about wanting to have a training company, right? That was always something they said, oh, one day we should have a training company, we should train, do classes, and it would be awesome. And I was listening, you know, I was new in the fire service, I was listening always, and these guys were my mentors and my academy cadre and stuff. So I'm listening and I'm hearing, I'm like, yeah, that would be cool, you know? And then as I got involved in trainings around the department, I was like, man, this would be cool. So long story, you know, from that, we get an approach from a mutual friend who was also in the fire service, who also used to work for Blackwater and had some connections to some private contractor agencies. This private contractor agency had a contract with an aerospace company, a large aerospace company. We just had to sign NDAs, so we can't talk about them.
I understand.
So they asked him if he could do this hazard mitigation, basically put together a hazard mitigation team for a large aerospace company when they launch rockets to mitigate any hazards that could take place.
Yeah, it was like a fire rescue team.
Yeah, it was like a fire rescue team.
I get it.
Yep. And any firefighter in the country, if you would have seen this list that they gave him, these are our top 40 problems that their bean counters identified. It was a joke for any firefighter in the country. You're like, dude, yeah, we're certified for all this shit. We can do this. And so we dove into this. We put our little team together and we said, yeah, let's put a bid together. So we start working with this, signing NDAs. A week later, our partner Bryon Hunt's in Cape Canaveral out on the space arm, sending us FaceTime videos of like Buzz Aldrin's signature in there.
It's wild.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Right.
We're swinging so far out of our shoes. It was unreal. Like, so out of our league, right? You know that scene in Armageddon when they walk in and the real astronauts go, talk about the wrong stuff. Like, dude, that was us.
I get it. So I totally get it. I love it.
We're putting this bid together and FaceTime meetings back and forth with these people. And they go, what is your LLC name? And we were like,
we'll let you know tomorrow. We got to create one.
That is exactly
we'll get right back
what we said. We'll tell you tomorrow.
Right.
So we got off the phone, got online, and my dad punched up online and goes, well, we'll just call it Hortons and Hunt. LLC. We'll start this LLC right now. So he filed all the paperwork right there, and that's where it was born. So we finished the bid and did not get it. Clearly, you know, we're doing a podcast. We're not launching rockets. So that didn't work out, but we sat there and said, we got a company. What do you want to do? You want to do this? We've been talking shit about it for years. You want to do this? And everybody looked at each other and said, yep, let's do it.
What were the core values of what you guys wanted to bring forward? I mean, after, you know, through years of service and, you know, recognizing the job and what's present, what's missing, were there like 1, 2, 3 core values that you were like, this is what we need to do with Hortons and Hunt? Like, this is what we want to go after.
Yeah. So when we sat down, we talked about this, like what's our mission as a company and what are our core values as a company? Right. So, the one thing we kept circling back to and kept coming back to as a group is we want to provide what's wanted and needed. So it's about the end user. It's about the customer, if you will.
Yeah.
What do they want? Right. So we went around, we started talking to firemen all over the country. Like what is lacking? What do you want? What's important to you as a fireman? You know, what would make your job better, easier, more fun, you know, more enjoyable?
What'd they tell you?
They wanted basics. That's what they kept coming back to. And it was funny because we talked to, or said, we're never going to do whiz bang shit. We're never going to make up our own stuff. We're just going to teach what we know and stay in our wheelhouse. We're not going to go out there. If you want to, you know, a tower rescue class, we're not your guys. You don't call us. We don't do that stuff.
Right.
If you want to learn how to stretch line, we're your guys. You want to go force doors, we're your guys. You want to search, we're your guys. But we don't get out of our wheelhouse. They said they wanted to keep it. They wanted basics. And then another thing were you
surprised by that? Hold on, Jesse. Were you surprised by that?
Yes.
Like you think about this term back to the basics, right? Like everybody uses it, right? I mean, my own department, it's like, we're getting back to the basics. And I'm like, we've never left the basics. Like why do we have to retitle and find ways to get people back involved in things that we should know and we should know well? Like I get a sense that when departments talk like that, it's because they don't have a true focus on training. And training is not at the core value of their department. So when they talk about back to the basics, I throw some flags for me, no?
I think people get out of their shoes, man. They start... You're right. What have you done since the day you got in the fire service? They've made you go pull hose and they've made you go force doors and throw ladders and all these basics.
Now we're cutting cars on a side of a building because we might have that one call in 35 years that an extrication is going to be upside down on the side of a building.
And one dude goes to Rescue Systems 9 and he comes back and wants to do a 9 to 1 with 2 changes of direction, you know, and it's like, okay, that's
speaking
cool.
Spanish.
That's a cool skill. It can everyone here do a straight pull from a flat load every time? 10 out of 10 times, can you do this skill? And everyone goes, oh, I've been pulling hose. One of my favorite lines from one of my really favorite dudes. I say that as facetiously as possible. I've been pulling hose for 30 years, never had a problem. Well, I've never seen this dude pull hose, and I promise you he has problems. So it was surprising to me how many guys were willing to say, we want basics. We want basics.
I love it
because everybody wants to do whiz bang, man.
Yeah. In the department we work for, we got stuck in a little bit of a rut doing tech rescue training. It was like we were doing tech rescue stuff every day. It seemed like we're setting up an Arizona Vortec and a ladder gin and doing all this shit that I've never used on a call in 22 years. I have not used that on a call in 22 years. Like, what are we doing?
Right.
And, so when we started talking to guys, they're like, we're sick of doing this. We want to go out and pull hose and bang doors and throw ladders and cut holes and do the job that we did basically in the academy, but we want to do it to the journeyman level. You know, we want to get so good at it that we're journeyman.
I like that.
This.
And that was one of the goals. You know, we sat down and we wanted to make, like, when you see somebody go out on a fire or even on a training and let's just take a hose pull, right? And you say, hey, stretch to that door. And they bust a hose stretch out by themselves, no help, don't need to go fix any knots. It just goes bam, bam, bam. People go, oh, that dude's advanced.
Yep.
It's like, no, that dude is not. That's the most basic hose pull you can do. This guy just took basics to the vast potential of their capability. This guy took it to the end of its potential because he did it over and over and over, and he understands the why behind it. Now, when this guy does this on a fire ground and he pulls it up back to what we were talking about before, that aperture has opened up so much. His mental process has slowed down so much. The understanding of the why beyond the threshold, reading that smoke before he goes in there, is what he's into now. Because the stuff out front, easy peasy.
There is something certainly to be said for the guy that says, I've been stretching hose for 30 years. We haven't had any problems. Good. You stretch, and I'm going to put another guy next to you, and he's going to stretch. And when you see the difference in the stretch, it's in the details, right? Like that's what we were talking about. I want to create like a small program or a segment around, I'm a New Jersey guy, Italian food. It's like grandma's sauce, right? Like just marinara sauce.
Yeah.
Grandma's sauce is better than anyone else's sauce. And it's because of the details. It's what she does. It's the experience that comes with it. Anybody can make tomato sauce. In fact, you can just open a jar and pour it out and you have tomato sauce. It is not the same thing. It's like the recipe of making sauce. And so, yeah, you've stretched hose for 30 years and you've never had a problem. Sure. Because it's nonchalant. You're not proficient in it. You're not trying to better yourself every time you pull a bundle, but you can stretch hose. Sure you can. Can you put fire out? Sure you can. Can you force a door? Sure you can. But could you do it a lot better if you paid attention to the details?
Yep. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, both of those sauces are red.
Yeah,
but that's about where it ends, right?
That's it.
So
that's it. You're 100% right.
Yeah, they're both red, but that's about where it ends. And this guy that the 30-year guy, I've been pulling hose for 30 years and never had a problem. Yeah, that's because of the fucking 4 guys behind you that fixed all your kinks and fixed your stretch for you while you were fucking up your mask up on the front porch. That's why you never had a problem, bud.
Yeah, that guy likes ragu.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's a ragu.
100%.
There's so much to that. So that's pretty cool. So the core values and mission then was listening to the fire service. They tell you what they're starving for. They tell you what they're looking for, and let's go all in on that. I love that. I think staying in your lane, super, super important. And I really love the fact that you guys, you get it. Like we as departments get so caught up. Like we went on this like Swiftwater rescue like bandwagon for a while, and it's like water rescues, we're doing more of them now, and it's like, yeah, and then when you go, we're just literally carrying somebody through knee-deep water. Instead they could just walk, but now we got to carry them. I'm like, the focus is shifted, and now we go discipline and specific instead of going specific and being disciplined about the everyday duties that we do. And that's where we really lose the message for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our other major tenets of H&H is we'll come to your department and teach any class that you want us to teach, but we're not going to come to your department and say, here's the gospel, do it this way. You have to do it this way. We're going to come to your department and we're going to look at the way that you do business, and we're going to give you some stuff that we know, and we're going to see how you can integrate it into your system. One of the things with our lectures that we do is if we do a 90-minute lecture, the lecture's 60 minutes. And the last 30 minutes is open discussion with the class. Call us out. Tell us if something we said is bullshit. Let's have a discussion. Let's open it up to the class to actually get involved and start talking.
We want to learn too.
I think, go ahead. Yeah, you want to learn too. I think a big part of that, that's obviously comes with a lot of humility, right? And what I think is important is not every training conference, not every class that you take, do you have to be hit over the head with like this nugget and you go, oh my God, I've never heard that before. I've never seen that before. Like, I think when you have open dialogue back and forth, some of the best conferences and training cadres and instructors that are out there are very much that, right, Micah? Like exactly what you said is that I want to learn just as much as you do. I might have some stories or experiences to share or something that I've been through that I think could bring value, but man, do I want value from you as well? And I think that an environment like that very much promotes what this job's all about. It's not going into a training conference or a training night and waiting to be knocked unconscious by all these groundbreaking, revolutionary type things. It's not the case, right? it's like the little things. It's those details where if you pay attention, somebody will share something with you and you're going to walk away with something very small, maybe sometimes pretty big. But that's where I think we get value in pushing this job forward. I really do.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I've been to, like I said, been to a bunch of conferences, symposiums, everything. And there's been times where I went to a 90-minute lecture where the instructor talked for 90 minutes and then said, thank you. And that was it. No questions, no comments. Boom, here's the information. Take it, do it exactly this way. You'll be successful, right? And was it good information? Yeah, sure. But I gained so much more from every class that I've ever taken where the instructor would give some time, answer some questions, go to the crowd, get into some discussions, get into the nitty gritty of the why behind what they're talking about and be able to explain it. And I've always taken more away from something like that. So that's why we set up the way that we do when we do training.
That's awesome. Jesse, explain to me what the finest hour is. I saw that on your website. I was going through some stuff, doing some bios and things like that. And I saw the finest hour, or I think I saw it on a social media post. What is it?
The finest hour is our search class. So we do an 8-hour, well, 8 to 10 hour, just depends on how much fun we're having. Hands-on search class. We started out in the beginning with about a 90-minute lecture, and then we jump into the hands-on. We put 3 different stations at the hands-on. And it was kind of one of the things our guy, Chris Boyer, he's one of our cadre members. Amazing dude, super, super talented firefighter, Georgia smoke diver. Smart guy. He came to me and said, man, dude, I just got back from the smoke divers class. I think we're lacking this in this area. I think we're lacking search training. Do you want to put a training together for search? And I said, 100% I do. Let's dive into this. So we started going through it, and we contacted all of our contacts that we had all over, and everybody was super helpful. Bryon Olson helped us out a ton with this class and gave us a ton of information for it. So he goes, well, what are we going to call it? This is just a funny side story. This is, what are we going to call it? And I said, dude, let's call it the Church of Search, because it rhymed. And I thought it was cool. And then I Googled it, Church of Search. Nothing came up.
Yeah, I'm definitely the only guy who's ever thought of this.
Dude, I'm the only guy that's probably ever thought of this.
Right. So absolutely.
We put it out for a class, Church of Search, sign up. We're going to do our first one. And I get hit up from Kyle Romagus, Corley Moore, Dustin Martinez out of Atlanta. I get like all these dudes hitting me up. And they're like,
who we've never met.
Yeah, never met these guys in my life. And I was
right. Yeah, you're right.
These
absolutely.
are like giants of the industry for me, And I'm like, hey guys. And they're like, is Nick Ledeen teaching with you? I'm like, no, that would be awesome though. Do you have his phone number? And they're like, this is his class. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, his class is Church of Search. And then they sent me a flyer for his class. So then I Googled Church of Search Nick Ledeen. And 10,000 hits come up, and I was like, oh my God, what have I done? And it was already on our website and everything. So I got Nick's number. I called him. First things out of his mouth, it's cool, man. You can keep it. I don't care. I was like, no way, dude. It blew me away how humble this guy was.
Sure.
And how supportive. He's like, let me send you all my stuff. I'll give you all my information. I'll help you out. If you have any questions on the class, let me know. I can help you walk through this. I've done these search classes a bunch. I mean, never one time did he act negatively about it or was upset or thought that we did this on purpose.
And none of the guys that reached out did either.
Oh no, they were all super cool. They were like, Dustin Martinez was the first one that reached out, and he was just like, hey, did you know this, bro? I'm like, no. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm sure you didn't. It's all good. Nobody was mad. And then even Corley, I got a call to Corley, and he's like, hey, just talk to Nick. It's all good, man. I just wanted to hopefully that you knew and blah, blah, blah. It's all good. And we changed the name because I was like, there's no way I'm keeping this name. Thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah. Right.
So we changed the name. The finest hour is a quote from Winston Churchill that's actually on our website as well. It's my favorite quote ever that talks about being ready. And you don't get to choose when the bell rings. You can only get to choose, if you're ready or not. And what a shame it would be if what could have been your finest hour finds you unprepared. So it was one of those things where if on a search for a victim, that is going to be your finest hour. So,
and we taught the curriculum to our current department, taught the entire curriculum to them for free, gave it to the whole department. And about a week later, 2 of the guys that went through the finest hour grabbed 2 kids on a residential house fire. And then,
awesome.
And then we had them on the podcast, and they told their story, and we titled it The Finest Hour. So it all just kind of worked out.
Came together. Well, I do want to do this because I saw the quote on your website. To each there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do a very special thing unique to them and fitted to their talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds them unprepared or unqualified for that which could have been their finest hour. Winston Churchill. That's pretty awesome, bro.
Powerful.
That is a powerful, powerful quote. Figuratively, I fumbled over that one, but I mean, what a great, great quote. And I think it sums up very much what you guys are doing, being prepared. And, you know, for yourselves, you guys do that through your work ethic, through your jujitsu, through your mindset training. And then what you're doing is you decided to pay that forward and share your mindset and insights into a job that we all love. And you guys do that through Hortons and Hunts, through your training cadre, and then through the podcast, social media content, tactics on taps. Like, you guys are hustling, man. And I've noticed, and I think it's great. I really do, man. Kudos to you guys for sure. It's awesome.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're trying for sure.
So what's next for you guys? Like, what's going to fit the bill? What's exciting? What are you looking at? I mean, what's going on?
We're going to submit our papers for FDIC for the third time this year and see how we do there. See if we can bust into that crowd. That's something we'd like to do is kind of take the message national, you know, on a more national level, and get out there and teach. We love getting out in front of people and speaking, and we have no problem trying to put ourselves out there and learning from the experience. So we'd love to be out at the bigger shows. Trying that.
I'm giving away I'm spilling the beans a little bit here, but we're working on something pretty big. We're hoping to get it done in 25.
Good.
Out here on the West Coast.
Awesome. You guys are where? Nevada?
Yes.
Where are you? In Nevada, right?
Yeah, we're based out of Reno, Nevada.
What's the culture there? The training culture? Are there training groups, conferences, things that are happening? Because I don't hear much from that area, to be honest.
So that was one of the big driving forces for us to start H&H, is because we don't have a lot of training cadres out here. We're actually the only training cadre in Northern Nevada right now that's putting out hands-on classes and stuff that we're doing. We do have a conference here in Reno. I'll let Jesse speak to that a little bit.
Fire Shows West is out here in Reno. Trish was actually on with Pip out at FDIC. He sat her down for a quick interview. Yeah. And Fire Shows West has been real bad for a couple of years. It's kind of gone downhill. They've sort of lost their motivation on getting good guys here, but the venue and the bones are amazing. Like, it's at the Grand Sierra Resort. The Grand Sierra is awesome. The classrooms are awesome. Like, the bones are all there to have this great conference. So they brought Trish in. Trish has talked to Cody and Pat from BA Shields, and with me and Micah and Bryon from H&H, and kind of let us pair up to try to revamp this thing and bring some guys in. So that's what we're trying to do this year, is get some new blood in there, some new speakers, and then hopefully next year it'll get even better. And maybe we can bring back a conference to the West Coast that's got some meat on it. You know what I mean? So that's definitely in the works. But like Micah said, we're looking at putting a symposium together in Tahoe in 25. Just a little 2-day speaker event, you know, nothing hands-on, but something to get guys up here. Tahoe's beautiful. It's an amazing place to come visit.
Sure is.
And come out and get some fire training on top of it. You know, that's going to be our big goal moving forward for the next year. So,
well, it's a lot of work. And, you know, watching what you guys are doing and watching all the legwork that you're putting in now, just building the brand and your podcast, your social media, and getting out and spreading the good word. I mean, it is infectious when you do it right. And I think you guys are certainly doing it right. And, you know, I wish you guys nothing but the best success moving forward, and, you know, and so on. And, frankly, if you got a conference in Tahoe, let me know.
Will do.
Oh, don't you worry. We'll be reaching out.
I'd love to get back. It's been a very long time since I was there. So that would be amazing. But I'm excited. I think that this is one of the most exciting things for me in the fire services. Like I alluded to it before, there's tons of new shows that pop up and they come and go. There's a few that stand out to me that I think are there for all the right reasons, and that I think there's longevity built into their platforms. And I think what you guys are doing, I think you have something here that is built on longevity and legacy. And, you know, shows are going to come and go. Personalities are going to come and go. There's a few that stand out. I think that you guys certainly fit that mold. And, you know, I really hope that you guys continue down this path of sharing your knowledge and experience. And, you know, that's for me with National Fire Radio. It's always looking for the next guys that have some talent to bring forth. And, you know, and you guys struck me. We met at FDIC. You know, didn't really know much about you guys, to be honest. You know, and so on. So it was a nice conversation back and forth, and just through a quick conversation, I felt comfortable enough to say, "Hey, join me on the show." And you know, which for me, I'm very protective about what I do. So for me, it means that you guys really, I believe, are progressing in the right way. I just love everything about it.
That means more to us than you know, Jeremy. I want to say, man, meeting you at FDIC was amazing. We have had such positive interactions with the big fish out there, because we are definitely the small fish. And it has been nothing but positivity and guys wanting to collaborate and guys wanting to work together. And I can't thank you personally and guys like you that have helped us out. I just can't thank you guys enough. It's been awesome to have the support of such big platforms to try to get the word out.
Bro, doing the right thing's always doing. And like, we recognize that. Everyone recognizes that from.
Uh-oh.
So like, what's the matter? You good?
No, we're good.
You froze for a second, but we're good now.
Oh, all right. No worries. But my point is this, it's like, you know, when you recognize people that are in it for the right reasons, everybody will open up opportunity and doors to you. Like, we're better when we collaborate than we are being competition. There's no competition here, because it's all about the fire service. Like that whole cliche saying of like, leave it better than you found it. Like, if you actually believe in that, then competition doesn't exist. Why wouldn't we pick one another up? Why wouldn't we promote one another? But what you have to do then is look at the reasons for which you want to promote people. And is it selfish? Are they in it for the right reasons? Do you feel that they fit the mold of what we want to be, you know, the leaders of the fire service? Like, that matters. So you got to look at intent. And there are people that come through that their intent is to better themselves and not the mission. It's all about them. And when it is, those guys are found out pretty damn quick, and they don't get the collaborative projects, and they don't get to have the conversations, or doors aren't open to them because they're not here for the right reason. And so when you always put the mission before you, you'll always make the right decision. And I firmly believe that I think you guys are doing that. And that's why I'm very happy to be, you know, have you guys on today and to you know, get to learn a little bit more about you. I hope we could do some projects down the road together. That's what it's about.
Absolutely.
I mean, the fire service is built on mentorship. We talked about it before.
Yeah, 100%, man. And we could.
Why wouldn't the guys that have been doing this for a little while? I mean, I am nothing in the grand scheme of things, right? But if I can share some experience with you, or some opportunities that I've had, and I can share that with you, why wouldn't I?
Right.
We just talked about keeping the information to yourself instead of sharing it. Like, go share it. That's it.
Yep. That's the message. Go share it, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So guys, thank you very much for joining me. I know we're on your platform today because of technical difficulties.
Thank you for your patience.
And I swear to God, it does not feel like my show right now. Like like all the controls, everything's different, but but you know what? It's the same conversation.
Yeah.
And, you know, outside of all the technical stuff, like, this was just a good back and forth, getting to know you guys. I mean, we didn't even go down half the rabbit trails I wanted to go down, but that's just enough to bring you back and go at it again.
Perfect.
And we'll do that. But just really, I mean, I wish you guys nothing but success with your mission. Keep doing the right thing. Doing the right thing is always the right thing. And you guys are doing that. So congratulations on what you've been able to build. And I wish you nothing but success moving forward.
Right back at you, brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Jeremy. Yeah, good. Micah and Jesse, thanks, man. Hortons and Hunt training group. Guys, where can they find you? If people are interested in learning more about you, where can they find you?
You can get us Instagram, Hortons and Hunt. Pretty easy to find. You can email us at info@hortonsandhunt.com or Jesse or Micah at hortonsandhunt.com. And it's hortonsandhunt.com.
Hortons, HORTONS.
Yes.
ANDHUNT.com.
Yes, there's multiple
Hortons,
man. So there's an S on there.
I got it. I love it. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you very much for joining me. Hang out right here. I'm just going to sign off the podcast. I'll come right back to you. Okay.
Sounds good, brother.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Guys, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the National Fire Radio Podcast. Like I say at the end of every show, take this conversation, take it back to the firehouse and talk about it. Because when we talk about the job, we're making the job better. We'll see you at the next one. Jeremy, National Fire Radio.